Hello everyone and welcome back to part 4 of our series of creating a TV watch list application in Symfony. Just a quick recap. In the first video, we created a Symfony application, set up templates, and added a home page. In the second video, we created a user entity type, configured security, and added routes for logging in and logging out to the application. And in the third episode, we added platform and show entity types so we could track our streaming platforms and watched shows. And since the last video, I went ahead and manually added to the database a couple more platforms and a couple more shows just so that we have some data to work with here. We're going to come back in a later part of this series to talk about how to actually edit these things within our application. But for now, we just want to focus on how to get information out of the system and get a quick look at that. So in this video, we're going to create a basic watch list display. Now, I want to mention something before we dive too much further. We have some information available to our Twig templates, and that is all in the app variable. And one of the things that we have in our app variable is app user. And from there, we can get any of the properties of our user, including app username. I went ahead and made a quick change to the code here. In our previous app template, we checked to see if the current user had the role of user as a way to tell whether or not someone was logged in. It's probably cleaner to go ahead and use app user username to check that. So I went ahead and made that change in our template. And I'm not going to go through showing the steps to do that. It's a pretty simple change. But now we're checking that to see if we're logged in or not. So let's come back and we're going to start by creating a new template for the home page. In the first video in this series, we created a route for front page and we sent it to the app template with the title and content. We're going to create a template called watch list, and as we're going to see, we don't actually need to send it any content at all. We're not going to specify that. The only thing we still want to send over is the title for this page. So the watch list template display extends app, just like our login template did, and so we're going to replace only the pieces inside of block body. And just as a starter to see what we have here, I'm going to dump app user so we can take a look at it. So if you see right now, if we dump app user and we're not logged in, we just get back null as a result. So we can see that app user is empty until we log in. And once we log in, we'll see that now we have all the information about our user right here already available in the template. And one of the things we have are the shows and the collection. And so if we pop this open to take a look, we'll see the information about our collection, but we don't actually see the shows in the collection yet. We need to do some more steps to do that. But the point is that just by logging in, our template now knows who our user is and can get more information. So let's go and borrow this little piece of code right here. And we're going to put a little more information in our template. Let's say if the app user is defined, then we can say something like watch list for app user username. And then because we do have shows, we can cycle through those shows and we can display information about each of those shows. Again, for right now, I'm just going to dump show, just so we can get a little quick dump and see what we're looking at. Refresh the page, and here we are. Here are our 4 shows in order. So now we have the platform associated with those shows. And again, this isn't initialized yet, but we'll be able to get the platform information from the show. So let's see what this would actually look like. Let's make a table, and I'm going to wait to make any kind of headers on this until we know what we're doing. Let's just go ahead and add our row, and our first cell is going to be show title. Notice we don't have to sanitize our strings here because Twig is going to do that automatically, and we only need to sanitize, we only need to do things if we tell it we want to print a raw or through some other kind of filtering that we need to do that. The second thing we're going to want is the show platform title. So this would be the title from the platform for the show. And lastly, we want the rating. Come back over to our page and refresh. And we ran into a problem with grabbing that platform. So coming back and looking at what I did wrong with platform, I realized that it's not title, it's name. And that was the only thing that we got wrong on our first try here. I call that pretty good. And when we come back over now, we see that our table has our show title, our platform name, and our rating. When I first discovered how to do this, the most fascinating part was that I didn't even have to write any code in my controller to grab any of this information. Even the user is already available to the template. So all I had to do was make a controller that calls this template and lets the template do the work. Coming from a very long background of working in PHP, where the programmer always has to write all of the code to do the database queries and get all this information, it was very impressive to me how little work had to be done here. Now let's say we wanted to get a little bit fancier here and show stars instead of numbers for our ranking. For that, we can simply display an image, but we need to know how to set up a loop for this in our Twig template. Let's jump to the Twig documentation and take a look. As you can see, we can use the for and end for loop by specifying a range. Let's test this real quick by just printing an asterisk in place of the star here. Sure enough, we now show stars. However, we have one too many stars because I did my loop wrong. There we go. Now we have the correct number of stars. If we want, we can insert an image. And when we do this, we'll make use of the asset function to tell Twig where our images directory lives. And there we are. Our stars are a little big, and we could resize those with CSS, but you get the general idea. The thing that was fascinating to me when I first discovered how to do all of this is that instead of doing what I've done for years in PHP programming, of writing a bunch of functions that would go pull out my data and do the database queries and build everything to send out to the page, we can actually do everything directly from information that's already available to our templates. Everything we needed was in app user, and we can derive everything else from there. The second thing that surprised me is where we would go to make changes to something like that. Say, for example, we want to display our shows in descending order based on our ratings. I found that the simplest and quickest way to do this is to add a method directly into our user entity. So let's jump over there and take a look. As you can see, we already have a way to return a collection of shows. But if we want to manipulate that, we can add a new method, get ranked shows. And that's going to return an array. For this method, we're going to set up an array called shows, and we're going to return those shows when we're done. To build the array, we're going to grab the actual values from those shows using the collection method getValues. So for the collection this shows, we're going to use the getValues method, and we're going to process each one as show. Easiest way to do this now is to manipulate the keys of this array to include the sort value. But I can't just put that in as my value. Let's first just demonstrate this by actually adding each show individually to our shows array and returning shows. That's just going to show that we can pull an array the same way and we get the same results we had before, because the default is to pull everything in order that it was created. Now if we manipulate the key on our shows array, we can use that as a way to handle our sorting. So let's say that our key is going to be show rating and then sort by title. Let's take a look at the data that we get from this. And I realized that I didn't actually change this. I didn't actually change my template to display the shows the correct way. So we'll make that change too. Get ranked shows. So here we'll change for app user shows to app user get ranked shows. And I realized that I tried to grab the properties directly from the show, and I actually need to use the getters for that. So let's go back and fix that. And I'm going to close some tabs I'm not using here. So we'll replace these with the getters. That should work better. And sure enough, we still are getting the same output that we had before. But let's look at this array real quickly. We'll do this outside of our table. We're going to dump app user get ranked shows. I want to show what we've done here is, if you see, these are the array keys that we used to be able to sort. So now all we have to do is kr sort our array so that we can keep the keys. So do a key reverse sort. And now these are showing in order with the titles sorted alphabetically and then in decreasing rank. This is just the starting point of what you can do with output in Twig. But as convenient as this is, it doesn't do a lot for us unless we can actually add data in our application. So next we're going to start building the admin section of our app. I hope this video helped you see just how quick and easy it is to get information out of a Symfony application by manipulating your Twig templates. Thanks for watching.